Welcome to Mi-sun Sanctuary. Ladies and gentlemen, Mi-sun Relic is an architectural complex of Champa temples located in Zhufu Commune, in Zhujian District, Guangnan Province. Recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site on December 4th, 1999. Mi-sun Sanctuary, which contains approximately 70 temple structures constructed between the 4th and 13th centuries, is unequivocal evidence of a glorious era in the history of the Champa Empire. The architectural design of Mi-sun represents the soul of the artist, the fusion of Champa ornamental art and architectural methods. The temples now appear grand and enigmatic as a result. Coming to Mi-sun, you will have a chance to visit Mi-sun Sanctuary Relics and Mi-sun Museum, watch Cham folk art performances, and experience Cham brocade weaving at the Halt Hut and Transfer Tram. Ladies and gentlemen, Mi-sun Museum is located next to Khe Te Stream, about 2 kilometers from Mi-sun Relic to the northwest. This construction was started in June 2004 and completed in March 2005, funded by a non-repayable grant from the Japanese government. Mi-sun Museum consists of 2 rooms, the Fixed Gallery and the Thematic Gallery. First, the Fixed Gallery. This is a place to provide general information and knowledge about the Mi-sun Relic before visiting the temple complex. Here you can see the process of formation and development as well as the unique architectural and artistic values of the relic through illustrated models, panels, and artifacts. Next is the Thematic Gallery. On display are artifacts resulting from research, archaeology, and restoration over a period of 10 years at the G Temple Group, starting from 2003 to 2013. This was all made possible by the tripartite cooperation project of UNESCO, Italia, and Vietnam, with non-repayable aid from the Italian government through the Italian Trust Fund. We invite you to continue moving into the Fixed Gallery to listen to stories about the artifacts displayed at the Mi-sun Museum. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a scaled overview of the Mi-sun Temple complex. Looking at this, we can more clearly picture the positioning and layout of clusters of pagodas and temples in the Mi-sun Valley. Researchers unearthed more than 70 Cham temples scattered along the revered Khe Te Stream, when Mi-sun was found more than a century ago. Tourists can see the sole route going to the relic by following the stream. Following the rediscovery of Mi-sun, Henri Parmentier, a French architect and archaeologist, gave the clusters of temples Latin names in 1901, based on the position and distribution of the temples. Mi-sun Relic is separated into Group A and A1, pagoda temples, Group B, C, and D, Market Temple area. Group E and F, Ho Ke Temple area. Group G and H, Bangkok Temple area. And individual temples are marked with the symbols K, L, M, and N, respectively. After many historical ups and downs, there are currently only 30 architectural masterpieces available for visiting. The Mi-sun relic has been partially restored to its previous look thanks to cooperative work in conservation, reinforcement, and remodeling. Thereby, it helps us to better visualize the most important religious center of the ancient kingdom of Champa from immemorial times. In the fixed gallery, visitors can see groups of panels on the context of Champa and Mi-sun, a system of important inscriptions, decorative sculptures, worship spaces in the temple, decorative column styles through the stages, as well as the process of Champa architecture, the preservation process of Mi-sun, and also the typical artifacts of Mi-sun relic. Before you is the wooden component, which Champa people call the Januk. This model reproduces the first worship space of the ancient Champa people, based on the current size of the stone pillars found in the Mi-sun C1 temple. Since the beginning of the construction of Mi-sun, the Linga Yoni image has been worshipped here. We cordially invite you to hear researcher Chan Ki-fung discuss the significance of the Linga Yoni in Champa culture.
This wooden structure, Januk, is used to protect and cover the object of worship in the temple, which could be a set of Yoni Linga or an idol of the main deity of that temple. In here, we see that this Januk is placed on top of a typical altar in a Champa temple, that is, a Yoni Linga set. Yoni Linga is a symbol of Shiva, with the Yoni representing the yin principle of the universe, while the Linga represents the yang. Looking at the Yoni, we see that it has 4 directions, one in the middle called the center, and the typical directions of north, south, east, and west. At the center of Hindu beliefs is the symbolism of Q or Ete, with the east representing the wind, the south representing fire, the west representing earth, and the north representing water. So the Yoni faucet, being used to drain water for purification, must always point to the north. On top of the Yoni is a Linga representing the yang principle of the universe. The classical Linga has 3 parts. The square bottom part represents the god Brahma, the creator of the universe. The octagonal middle parts represent the god Vishnu, the protector of the universe, and the round upper part represent the god Shiva, the god of destruction and regeneration. Any Linga must always consist of these 3 parts. The Linga before us only has the top part remaining, which in itself is symbolic. When people make offerings, they will cover this round part with a golden bag called koja, on which is embroidered the face of Shiva. This golden bag is only put on the Linga when offerings are made, otherwise it will be put in storage. So normally we only see the stone Linga without the golden bag.
In the next introduction, you will learn more about the Mukha Linga at the Mi-sun Museum. Ladies and gentlemen, before you stands a Mukhalinga statue, dating back to the beginning of the 8th century. The most unique feature of this linga is the carving of the face of Lord Shiva, with the neck attached to the linga. This is known as Mukhalinga. The Mukhalinga statue at My Son Relic was recognized as a national treasure in 2015, and is also the only one discovered in Vietnam so far, amongst all the 1,010 artifacts that are registered in the My Son Relic. Let's listen to the story of the excavation journey of the Mukhalinga statue, one of Vietnam's national treasures, through the voice of a staff member from the My Son Sanctuary's management board.
More than 100 years ago, the My Son temple complex was discovered after nearly 5 centuries of lying forgotten under the forest canopy. It was not until 2012, however, after heavy rain, that the special Mukhalinga statue was accidentally discovered. The site where the statue was found was previously an area full of weeds during the conservation process of the E4 tower by the management board. Among the 1,010 artifacts registered in My Son Sanctuary, this Mukhalinga is the only one discovered in Vietnam so far and is still mostly intact. This Mukhalinga artifact is around 1,300 years old and is considered a masterpiece of Cham sculpture's craftsmanship because of its standard shape and symbolic meaning. The symbolism of Mukhalinga is clearly depicted on the statue, consisting of 3 parts representing the endless cycle of birth, life, and death of the universe. The square foundation represents the god Brahma, symbolizing creation. The octagon middle stands for the god Vishnu, symbolizing conservation, and the round top embodies the god Shiva, symbolizing destruction. According to scientific assessment, the statue is dated back to the beginning of the 8th century and made from yellowish rough sandstone. It is 126.5 cm high, 41.5 cm wide, and 41.5 cm thick. Mukhalinga is depicted as a linga consisting of 3 parts of equal height, each 42 cm high, and also of equal width, 41.5 cm. The special feature is the cylindrical round with a protruding neck and head statue of the god Shiva. The head and the rest of the linga is monolithic and has a height of 23 cm, a width of 13.5 cm, and at 5.5 cm high, the kapada or hairband. The face on the egg Mukhalinga is contoured around the eyes and on the side of the nose, hence its high realism, conveying an expression that is natural and vivid. After comparing the date and the excavation location of this Mukhalinga, researchers have concluded that it is most likely the linga worshipped on the grounds of the My Son E1 temple and is mentioned in the Cham inscription found at the ruins of My Son Sanctuary. With its exceptional cultural and artistic values, the Mukhalinga of My Son is one of the most beautiful and unique Mukhalingas, not only of Champa, but also of the entire ancient Southeast Asia.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are walking on the most beautiful road in My Son Sanctuary. This is the pathway that leads to the relic's interior. With gorgeous mountains on one side and the poetic Khe Te stream with its abundant and varied vegetation on the other. Visitors may clearly experience the transition of climate and temperature between the outer landscape and the central region of My Son Valley on this road. The cool climate has created a beautiful landscape, helping visitors fully contemplate the stunning beauty of nature. This is the entrance to Mi Son Temple Complex, the important religious center of the ancient kingdom of Champa. The Mi Son relic is situated in a small valley with a diameter of around 2 kilometers, surrounded by high mountains, creating a solemn space that is separate from the outside world. The highest mountain in the Mi Son Valley, formerly known as the sacred mountain Mahaparvata, was the same body as the god eagle Garuda, who stepped out of an Indian epic. The sacred Kete stream flows from the peak of the mountain, meandering through clusters of temples before joining the Tu Bon River. Ladies and gentlemen, Mi Son is a site associated with many legends and spiritual stories, retold by word of mouth for many generations. You will listen to some of the stories that may partly explain why Mi Son was chosen as the land for the most important spiritual activities in the ancient Champa period. According to the inscription made in the 4th century, King Bhadravarmana I chose Mi Son Valley to build these temples to worship the gods. He chose the 4 surrounding mountains as the boundary for the place of worship. From then on, successive kings continued to use temples in order to worship in this valley. On the road leading to the sightseeing area, turn your eyes far away to the south, and you will see the sacred mountain Mahaparvata, the great mountain. Legend has it that the shape of the mountain resembles a linga, and the surrounding Mi Son Valley at the foot of the mountain evokes the image of a yoni. Therefore, he chose Mi Son Valley as a sacred ground to build a place of worship. Afterwards, many people believed that the sacred mountain of Mahaparvata, the ancient citadel of Cha Kyu, Kyuadai, and Ku Lao Cham, were all located on a straight line. These were important centers of the ancient Quang Nam land. Although there is nothing to prove and explain this coincidence, there are many considerations that this is probably also one of the reasons Mi Son was chosen to build temples to worship the gods of ancient Champa. Perhaps it is the harmonious connection between elements from nature and spirituality that has created a Mi Son full of mysterious legends that are difficult to explain after thousands of years. Ladies and gentlemen, Group H includes 4 buildings, all located on a small hill to the northeast of Group B, C, and D. This is the highest architectural group of buildings in all of Mi Son Sanctuary. This group of towers now lay mostly in ruins, with only the main temple, H1, still standing. Only one piece of the temple wall remains in the north, on which is carved a false door, a wall pillar, and an arch shaped like 3 overlapping spears that is evident of the Din Bin architectural style from the 12th to the 13th centuries. During construction of the tower, a thick layer of sandstone was added to the joint between the base of the tower and the tower body, in order to increase the bearing capacity of the upper part of the temple. This is one of the structural techniques typical of Khmer architecture at the time. In 2018 and 2019, Indian experts carried out restoration work of the 8 tower group, including the 4 towers H1, H2, H3, and H4, and the border wall that separates the sanctuary from the outside world. The slanted wall sections at towers H2 and H4 also had their foundation reinforced and repositioned. During the restoration process, every effort was made to preserve original architectural components to the greatest extent possible. Ladies and gentlemen, mysterious anecdotes about Misan are often known through the stories of ancient people. One of the most famous characters in the legend of Champa that was passed on by the ancients is Mrs. Tu Bon. According to legend, Mrs. Tu Bon is the princess of the Misan king. When foreign invaders surrounded the capital, the king and princess fled. She fell from her horse and died, her body floating in the river. The villagers mercifully carried her ashore to bury her. That year, the villagers of Tu Bun suffered from a smallpox pandemic. Everyone prayed to heaven and earth to bless and sustain the people to escape. Mrs. Tu Bun inspired to save the good people from the pandemic. Elders living around Misan said that, on the eve of Tu Bun festival, at the top of the sacred mountain Mahapavata, or Daison, they saw a streak of red silk crossing the mountainside. At night, people hear noises and see a big cloud from the mountain, having the color of a fire, flying in the Misan Valley to the west. They believed that it was time for her to go to the mausoleum. On the way, she stopped at rest places, so people built a palace to worship her. Her main mausoleum is located in Xiutun commune in Zhuozhuan district, about 5 kilometers from Misan. Tu Bon festival takes place on the 12th day of the 2nd lunar month every year, recognized as a national intangible cultural heritage. Around the land of Misan, there are many mysterious stories. They said that in the past, this land had a lot of gold. Gold was inlaid on the top of the temple to create majesty and magnificence. On moonless nights, villagers see a glowing golden chicken eating, but no one has ever been able to catch it. The story of the golden chicken is associated with the stories about the golden bananas, the acacia nut, the yellow beetle leaf. To get it back, you have to do the same thing to replace it. If these golden objects are taken without replacement, the family who takes them is said to experience bad luck. Ladies and gentlemen, before you is the group of towers B, C, and D that were built between the 8th to 13th centuries. This is considered the most prosperous period of the ancient Champa kingdom, clearly shown through the impressive size of the towers. Together with Group A, they form the largest system of temples and towers located in the worship center of Misun. The restoration work for the B, C, and D groups commenced in the 1930s by experts from the French School of the Far East in Hanoi, with the cooperation of Mr. Nguyen Xuan Dong, the only Vietnamese person involved in the restoration work. In the 1980s, after sustaining severe wartime damages in the late 1960s, the B, C, and D group was restored again, thanks to the funding from the Vietnamese government. With the help of Polish experts, under the guidance of the late architect Kazimierz Kwiatkowski, 1944 to 1997, the majority of the B, C, and D tower group were reinforced, preserved, and restored during this period, using the reconstruction method of anastylosis to preserve the originality of the complex as much as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, the reception houses D1 and D2 are also referred to as the retreat house or the mandapa. The plan of the ancient Champa temple is in a common arrangement, located on a straight line in the east-west direction. The main temple, or Kalan, is located in the center. Opposite is the gate tower, Gopura. Next to this is the retreat house, or the mandapa. The retreat house is the place to receive offerings and to welcome pilgrims, and at the same time is also the place for the king, members of the royal family, and worshippers to carry out the procedures to cleanse themselves and pray before entering the main temple, or Kalan, to perform their rituals. The retreat house has a very important meaning in the worshipping culture of the ancient Champa people, because this is the threshold separating the real world from the spiritual world, where mundane things in the soul of each person are left behind. Only the purest takes place in the spiritual space. In Tower Group D, two mandapas, D1 and D2, are the only two remaining works in Champa architecture dating around the end of the 10th century to the beginning of the 11th century, with rectangular floors and east-west facing doors. Each wall has 3 windows, with baluster-shaped stone pillars for window bars. Currently, the retreat house space is being used to display some artifacts of the relic. Ladies and gentlemen, inside the retreat house D2 displays a special artifact, which is a relief of God Shiva dancing. This is known as Nataraja. The relief is made of sandstone and dates from the 13th century. Let's listen to the story of the god Shiva through the voice of a staff of the Misan Sanctuary's management board.
This relief was placed on the transom, called Timpan, of the temple H1, belonging to the last group of brick temples built in Misan. In Champa culture, the image of Shiva Nataraja has both religious significance and decorative purposes. The depiction of Shiva Nataraja performing the Tanavu dance in Champa stone sculpture is shown in a highly soft and flexible pose, in contrast to the powerful and fierce appearance in Indian arts. Additionally, the leg movements are very subtle. The knees and navel form an equilateral or nearly equilateral triangle when the two legs are dropped. A foot moves from one to the other. The heel of one foot channels behind the other ankle as it is raised on tiptoe. Furthermore, the god's 8 arms are depicted as moving in a circle as a symbol of the eternal movement of the universe. The relief of God Shiva has partially shown the widespread exchange and transmutation of Indian art to nearby cultures such as the Khmers to create cultural characteristics and artistic styles with the local imprint. Shiva is the supreme god in Indian religion. He is the lord of all things, including people and animals, and he appears everywhere. According to legend, the male god dances while simultaneously creating, protecting, and destroying everything, with a stage of abstraction and scripture recitation, serving as a resting point. In the abstract stage, everything is hazy and the membrane has not yet formed. However, in the stage of reciting the scripture, everything regains its calmness and recovery. Tanavu dance represented the restless and powerful movement of the universe, following a law of life, death, rebirth. Since ancient times, Indians have lived rhythmic movements infused with music and symbolism. The ancient Tampa people received and transformed those symbols into their own cultural identity. In the relief of God Shiva dancing, we can also perceive the idea of transcending ourselves, creating ourselves, determining our own fate, and the desire for a peaceful, cheerful, happy, free, and the salvation of humanity.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Sea Tower Group consists of 7 towers, located at the north of Group B. You are currently standing at Gate Tower C2, dating from the 10th to 11th centuries. This is the only gate tower that has its interior decoration parts fully preserved, reflecting the evolution of the architecture of the Champa temples and towers. During this time, the material used in construction began to change from wood to brick, as you can see from the 4 round brick corner pillars. Wooden columns also fell out of use in favor of brick columns. Ladies and gentlemen, the main temple, C1, was rebuilt in the late 10th century and early 11th century, which worshipped the statue of the god Shiva, combined with his linga at Temple B1. Currently, the statue of Shiva is on display at the Da Nang Museum of Champ Sculpture. This is the only temple with a boat-shaped curved roof, which is a traditional feature of auxiliary buildings. Inside the temple, there is a canopy covering the altar. There are no patterns on the temple walls. This is the aesthetic style of Champa architecture from the 11th century onwards. Before you is the group of auxiliary towers C4, C5, C6 and C7. Ladies and gentlemen, Tower C7 is one of the earliest surviving temples in Misun. This structure is a small tower similar to those in the Hoa Lei Tower Group in Phan Rang, located in the south. On the wall pillars of the temples are carvings of stylized branches and leaves, which is typical of the Hoa Lei architectural style, which dates back to the 8th century and the first half of the 9th century. Inside the temple lies a small Linga Yoni altar. According to the Hindu concept, the main temple, or Kalan, is not a place for followers to gather and pray. Only Brahmins who have received Dharma can enter the temple to carry out rituals. This explains why the interior of the temples is so narrow. Each temple in the sanctuary has its own functions. The large temple is dedicated to the main gods, while smaller temples are reserved for other gods, including the god of direction, the god of the constellations, the god Ganesha. In addition, there are also many other auxiliary structures within the temple complex, such as storehouses for scriptures, offerings, and holy water, for example. All of these buildings are located in a sacred space, limited by the walls surrounding each group of temples.
As an officer of Misun Sanctuary, I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Chen Kifeng, a historian who has spent a lot of time and effort researching Chiempo culture. Please listen to a conversation between me and researcher Chen Kifeng to better understand Group B. Hello, researcher Chen Kifeng. Could you please give listeners some information about Group B?
You are currently standing in front of Tower Group B, the largest and most typical tower group in Misun Sanctuary. This group of towers includes the main temple B1, called Kalan in Cham language, and 7 other smaller temples from B7 to B13 surrounding B1, which worship the sun, moon, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, a group of 7 stars.
Please tell us more about other special features of Group B.
In addition, there are also 2 more unique temples, Misun Benam Temple in the southeast corner and the B6 Temple in the northeast. Additionally, other temples such as the B3 and B4 are dedicated to Skanda and Ganesha, the 2 sons of Shiva. Thus, it can be deduced that the Tower Group B is a complex dedicated to worshipping Lord Shiva. Another unique point of Group B is that the linga of the god Shiva in the Tower B1 represent the cosmic column, and then associated with the Tower Group 1 located in the north that worship the linga god under human idolatry. It can be the image of a reincarnated Champa king.
Please continue to listen to the stories to learn more about the characteristics of the temples in Group B.
Ladies and gentlemen, the water tower B6, dating from the 11th century, is located opposite the B5 tower, with the entrance facing the south. Inside the tower there is a water tank made out of sandstone, engraved with the image of thin and connected lotus petals. According to researchers, this tank is used to store holy water, taken from the stream originating from the sacred mountain Mahaparvata, to perform the cleansing ceremony at Temple B1, which involves cleaning the temple idols. Ladies and gentlemen, the Fire Tower B5, also known as the Warehouse Tower, is a masterpiece of Kushagra architecture that was carved in the Misun A1 style, with an S-shaped pattern. It is considered to be one of the most remarkable pieces of Champa architecture in the Misun Valley. The Fire Tower B5 is a place to store ritual necessities, also known as the sacred storehouse. Among the existing architecture of the Misun A1 style, the B5 Fire Tower stands out with its elegant and graceful beauty. The tower has a rectangular plan, extending towards the east and west directions, with the entrance door facing north, and is unsymmetrical along the entire structure. There are a total of 9 wall pillars on the south side and 7 on the north side, all of them carved with images of continuously curled branches and leaves. Artificial doors are located on the northern wall between each pair of wall pillars, and on each door a figure of a person standing with hands clasped is carved into the brick wall, with a head carved from sandstone. On the roof is a miniature floor resembling the tower body. Wall pillars with carved patterns serve as decorative elements. On the top is the tower's boat-shaped and curved brick roof. The window's lintel, also called a timpan, of Tower B5 is carved with 2 elephants, symbolizing the goddess Gaja Lakshmi, the goddess of beauty and fortune. 2 elephants, one male and one female, fight under the canopy of a tree, symbolizing the abundance of fortune. There are 2 birds carved on the canopy. The window bars of the B5 tower represent the development of window carving techniques in Misun through different artistic periods. In the 10th to 11th centuries, the window bars were carved in the shape of a baluster, resulting in a sophisticated beauty and the ability to withstand more exerted force. We would like to give you some additional information on the Misun A1 style. It's a delicate and elegant style, which can be recognized by the following characteristics. Decorative images of curled leaves. According to researchers, this decorative motif is influenced by the ancient Javanese art in Indonesia. Also, the space between the 2 pillars is framed protruding out and features the figure of a person standing on or riding an elephant. The proportion of the human figures carved on the B5 tower is overall quite harmonious, balanced and elegant. Ladies and gentlemen, in front of you is the main temple, B1, dedicated to the linga of the god Bhadresvara, or Srisana Bhadresvara. This is the only temple using stone or sandstone in the Champa architecture. According to the stele at the Tower B1, dating from the year 1234, the reign of King Paramesvara Varamana, it can be discerned that this is the last structure built in Misun. This may also be the site of the first wooden temple built in the 4th century, but was burned down after a forest fire in the 6th century. The temple is located in the central position, whereas other temples were built towards this stone temple in memory of King Bhadravarmana I, who was instrumental in finding the land of Misun and laying the foundation for the construction of the first tower. The architectural idea of the temple might be influenced by the aesthetic trend of contemporary Khmer Angkor temples and towers. Inside the main temple, B1, there is a large Linga Yoni altar. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to learn a little about the worshipping beliefs of the ancient Champa people. After being accepted by the ancient Champa inhabitants, Brahmanism and Buddhism merged with indigenous beliefs and customs. At that time, in the ancient kingdom of Champa, Shiva became the guardian deity. In Misun, the important religious center of Champa, Shiva is worshipped in the form of Linga Yoni and the human god statue. This dual form of worship was popular in Misun Valley from the 8th to the 13th centuries. The main temple is called Kalan, which worships the god Shiva. For example, the two main temples are B1 and C1 in the BCD temple complex. Inside B1 temple is the Linga Yoni statue, and inside C1 temple is the statue of Shiva standing on the Yoni pedestal. Shiva is the main god in the temples of Misun Valley, and also is the patron god of the Champa dynasties. The ancient Champa people often use sacred water, taken from the sacred Ke-Te stream, to bathe Linga or Shiva statues when performing ceremonies at the Kalan. The sacred water tank is still preserved by Temple B6. In front of you is a large Linga Yoni altar. This altar is located in every main temple. The Linga is the protruding part, representing the Yang characteristic, and the Yoni is the pedestal under the Linga, which is the expression of the Yin characteristic. On the altar there is a small slot that comes from the Yoni. This slot always faces north. According to researchers, it most likely represents the direction towards the Tu Bon Mother River, also known as Mahanadi or Goddess Ganga. On the day of sacrifice, after meditating and preparing offerings at the retreat house, worshippers pass through the gate tower to enter the main temple, also known as entering the spirit world. They pour water from the sacred spring over the Linga Yoni as a form of baptism. They wish for peace and happiness and for all things to prosper. This is typical in the worshipping custom of the ancient Champa people. Ladies and gentlemen, the auxiliary temple B4 was constructed at the end of the 9th century in the Zhongzhou style. The walls of the tower feature a typical spiral pattern, and the outer wall of the building is carved with the statue of a deity blessing and protecting the temple. With a short and fat stature and wearing a large and short sampot cloth, this statue is a prime example of the prominent aesthetic trend of the Zhongzhou architectural style by strong shaping techniques. The late French architect Henri Parmentier found in Group B 2 statues of the gods Skanda and Ganesha, the 2 sons of the god Shiva and goddess Parvati, that were likely worshipped in the temples of B3 and B4. Ladies and gentlemen, the auxiliary temple B3 is a typical work of Champa architecture with a square floor plan, a 3-story roof, and tower walls decorated with carved images of devotees standing and praying with hands clasped. This temple is dedicated to Ganesha, also known as the god of good fortune and wisdom. The internal structure of Temple B3 was built using the corbel technique. This is the traditional construction method used in Champa temple architecture. This type of corbel technique was inherited and developed during the construction of Champa over many centuries. Based on the tower design and wall carvings, it is speculated that B3 tower was built around the middle of the 10th century. Ladies and gentlemen, Group A includes 13 temples, numbered from A1 to A13, located in the southeast of the valley of Misun Sanctuary. The structures in Group A and B, C, and D formed the most important cluster of temples in Misun. However, a stream flowing towards the east divides the structures that comprise Group A and Group B, C, D. This is the largest group of temples and has the most complex architecture and is the most delicately carved and decorated in Misun. During the Vietnam War in 1969, Group A was almost destroyed, leaving only the temple's foundations remaining intact. After a long period of research, renovation and reconstruction from 2018 to 2022, and thanks to the support of experts from India, the temples of Group A have gradually been restored to their original condition. Ladies and gentlemen, Champa temple towers were built in all terrains, where according to Hindu beliefs, The location chosen to build the temple is associated with a separate legend, such as being warned in a dream by the gods, descending to earth, giving thanks to a local god, or marking the site of victory over an enemy. One of the prerequisites is where there is a source of water to serve the rituals. Therefore, areas near rivers are always noticed. Bridging the gap between Tower Group B, C, D to Tower Group A is a stream called Khe Te, a sacred water source originating from the sacred mountain of Mahaparvata, also known as Dai Son. Based on the maps created by French architect and archaeologist Henri Parmentier, in the past, the ancient stream flowed behind Group A, 500 meters east of Tower A1. Over time, nature has caused deviations in the flow of the stream. During the restoration process, the French architect assessed that this diverted flow could greatly affect the towers. Therefore, he built a dam, called a Baco Dam, to bring the stream back to its natural flow. However, the flood in 1946 caused the dam to burst, and the flow of the stream caused the retreat house in Group A to collapse. That's why Group A no longer has a retreat house as before. Ladies and gentlemen, the Temple A1, widely considered by researchers to be a masterpiece of Champa architecture, is 28 meters tall and 10 meters wide on each side, with 2 doors facing towards east and west. According to historians, the A1 tower dated back to the 10th century. Inside the A1 tower is a square floor plan, and located about 2 meters above the surface is a Yoni stone altar with a linga above, which is now lost. The thickness of the remaining tower wall varies from 85 centimeters to 100 centimeters, and is 2 meters to 2.5 meters higher than the base of the tower. Many segments of the tower wall have been damaged. On the surface of the A1 tower are vivid and strange Makara figures, elegant depictions of graceful Apsara dancers, and majestic and powerful squatting lion statues around the corner of the tower. This is seen as a symbol of the glory of the royal family. The base of the tower consists of 2 floors, decorated with stylized lotus flowers. The upper part of the foot of the tower is carved with graceful and funny-looking lions and elephants, all of them standing in front of lotuses. The architectural value of A1 Tower is reflected in the design and artistic style during the golden days of the Champa Kingdom, featuring an S-shaped decorative pattern. In addition, the curled leaf pattern on its wall pillars suggests a similarity to the contemporary art of the central Javanese region of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, dating back to the end of the 9th century, the A10 temple is a typical work of Mi-sun's Zongzung architectural style. This is a large temple located next to the well-known A1 temple, with its entire outer surface covered with engraved patterns. Around the outer surfaces, there are 5 artificial doors with a large arch on each. Decorations of human figures are absent on these doors. Instead, they either feature rectangular decorations or none at all. Both sides of the false doors have 2 elaborately carved octagonal pillars with distinctive patterns, alternating between spiral patterns and oval ones, each connected by a tilde to resemble a bead. The fringe of the temple's roof is decorated with a pattern of alternating double silk strips, and under the cladding columns and around the base of the tower walls are decorations of small and large arches. All these factors give the temple a profound beauty. Temple A10 is not only a typical work of the Zhongzhung architectural style in Mi-sun, but is also the final architecture of this style. Using this style, the uniqueness of Champa art is clearly represented by the distinctive decorative carvings. Before you is the Mi-sun A10 altar, a national treasure of Vietnam. Mi-sun A10 altar dates back to between the 9th and 10th centuries. This is an original and unique set of altars, the first of its kind, arranged and repositioned in accordance to its inherent position in the A10 shrine. This altar set is still largely intact as of today, with a square, terraced and symmetrical shape, and distinctive decorative patterns, similar to the 9th and 10th century Zhongzhung style architecture. The 2.26 meter high, 2.5 meter 8 long, and 2.5 meter 8 wide square-shaped altar is assembled from 17 sandstone blocks in the shape of 5 overlapping layers. A set of linga yoni is placed on the altar, the largest monolithic linga yoni statue set of its kind in the history of Champa sculpture. The linga has only a round part attached to the yoni on the same stone block, and is the largest of all linga sculptures with the same characteristics. In particular, the yoni is 2.25 meters long, 1.6 meters wide, and 31 centimeters thick, while the linga has a diameter of 55 centimeters, a height of 57 centimeters, and a shape of a round cylinder, smooth with a ridge encircling its body. The Mi-sun A10 altar is a highly symbolic and creative artifact in terms of shape, patterns, and sculpture techniques. This is also a unique altar, typical of the Shiva religion under the Indrapura dynasty of the Champa kingdom, which lasted from the year 1875 AD to 1915 AD. In recognition of its historical and artistic values, on December the 25th, 2021, the Mi-sun A10 altar was recognized as a Vietnamese national treasure. Ladies and gentlemen, the Temple A13, dating from the early 9th century, belongs to the Hoa Lei architectural style, with its door facing the west and square windows made out of sandstone. The corner of the roof of the northeastern tower depicts the bird god Garuda, with his wings spread, a symbol of power and courage. The image of Garuda is evidence confirming that the A13 shrine was built in the 9th century. In the process of renovation, and with the support of Indian experts, a sandstone relief was discovered inside the temple. One characteristic of the Hua Lei architectural style is how Champa art, or mainly the architecture, and the idealization of previous eras, which were influenced by Indian Gupta art, is harmonious with native artists' aesthetic preferences. That emphasizes strength, mysticism, and chaos. Works that bear the mark of the Hua Lei style include the A13 temple, which has an appearance that is both noble and ancient-looking, thanks to the upward rhythm of the cladding columns and its strong and majestic shape, enhanced by the intricate and complex adornments on the arches and the surfaces of the cladding columns. The structure, columns, and walls of the Hua Lei Tower are remarkably different from other architectural styles in the way its decorative strip runs between two smooth strips, and the two main decorations on its columns are flower pillars and wavy leaves. You are visiting the G Temple Group. Ladies and gentlemen, Group G includes 5 structures. The G1 Main Temple, also known as Kalan. The G2 Gate Tower, also known as Gopura. The G3 Retreat House, also known as Mandapa, located on the east-west axis. The G4 Storehouse Tower, also known as Kosaka, and the G5 Tower, also known as Posa, containing Antamandala, an inscriptive stele placed outside the border wall that surrounds the entire complex. This border wall represents the sacred space that is the inner area, where followers can pray and try to communicate with the gods. The towers of Group G are located on a low hill, constructed under the reign of Champa king Jaya Harivarmana in the second half of the 12th century, and are dedicated to the god Shiva. In contrast to other towers, the towers of Group G each have 3 entrances in the form of steps. It would be incomplete to talk about Group G without mentioning the amazing G1 temple, with its main door opening towards the west. Above its other doors and artificial doors are spear-shaped arches, decorated with reliefs of the goddess Lakshmi. As time went by, the G Tower Group has seriously degraded. In 2003, UNESCO, through the Lerici Foundation of the Polytechnic University of Milan in Italy, in collaboration with the Ministry of Culture and Information of Vietnam, implemented a project to restore the G Tower Group. The restoration process was completed in 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, please take a look at the C100 stele. The C100 stele was erected during the reign of King Jayaharivamana I, an extremely important ruler in Champa's history, due to his efforts in re-establishing peace and unity among the Champa territories. According to the inscription on the stele, this hill is located in the Vugvan mountain area, also referred to as the Universe Mountain. The king erected temples and towers here with the purpose of worshipping the god Shiva and his parents, as well as asking for heavenly protection. The Tower Group G is the only tower complex with inscriptions specifying the construction process and purposes of the structures. The C100 stele, together with its inscriptions, is an extremely valuable document that helps determine the precise construction date of the 12th century structures. The most prominent feature inside Misan is the main temples that feature unique artistic styles of the Champa dynasty, but share a common architectural design. The temples were built with a single door leading into the narrow and enclosed space. Only G1 temple is a work that's built with a central aisle and two side doors. According to some scientists, the middle path is only for the king and dignitaries. The two side doors could be used for carrying offerings or for the remaining royal members. In the four corners of the G1 temple lie four lion statues made of sandstone, dating from the 12th century. The lion figure represents the power and authority of the royal family. Around the base of the temple, in each square, lies a total of 52 masks of Kala, the god of time, among which 15 are still mostly intact, exhibiting many diverse shapes and forms. The reason for this difference in design is because these masks are meant to safeguard the prosperity under the Harivamana era after the victory. It is only when observing G1 Tower you can feel the full weight of the site's mythical aura. Because, according to Hinduism, Kala is an incarnation of the god Shiva, symbolizing destruction, impermanence, and the changing nature of things. We invite you to listen to the researcher, Chan Ki Fuang, to better understand the Kala and the meaning of this figure in Champa culture.
You are currently standing on the grounds of Tower Group G, the highlight of which is the G1 temple. This Tower Group G was built on a hill during the reign of King Jayaharivamana and is higher than any of the other temples in Misan. It is the only group of towers that are related to the group of temples here and still retains the inscription dating. Another special feature of the Tower Group G is that the base of the G1 tower, which is decorated with 52 masts with a very distinct style. These masks are called Kriti Mukha in the Hindu language, meaning faces of glory, symbolizing the glory of the royal family or the victory of the king. At the same time, it also retains the name previously used, which is Kala. Both Kala and Kriti Mukha represent the god Shiva, the god of impermanent destruction, but at the same time also represent glory. The number 52 represents the 52 names of Lord Shiva. Thus, we can see that this temple is built specifically for worshipping the Lord Shiva.
Ladies and gentlemen, Group E, which consists of 9 structures, is one of the first groups of towers constructed in the ancient Mison temple complex style, the Mison E1, in the second half of the 7th and 8th centuries. Previously, Group E had 9 towers. However, most of them have collapsed, leaving only ruins. The main temple, E1, constructed on a high platform, has no artificial doors, a narrow vestibule, and extremely low walls. This is a simple construction that retains the original character of a wooden temple, with a square temple base and 2 round pillars of sandstone decorated with exquisite designs. A stone door with the theme of Brahma's birth was found here. In the 4 corners of the inner palace, there are 4 stone legs to support a wooden temple structure. The altar of this temple, which is currently on exhibit at the Museum of Champa Art in Da Nang, is a masterpiece of Champa sculpture and the aesthetic benchmark that created the Mison E1 style in the 8th century. The forecourt, or the mandapa E3, was built at the end of the 9th century to the beginning of the 10th century as a place of retreat to pray. Despite being extensively damaged, the walls of the temple include rows of square, 2-story windows that were inherited from towers A12 and A13, and the base of the temple is decorated with relatively intact mouldings. Warehouse Tower, or the Kosagara E7, is a place to store scriptures or sacrifices. E7 is currently the best preserved remaining structure in the E group. The majority of Group E's walls are simply remnants. The 2 most obvious sections are in the north, which is about 10 meters in length, 0.8 meters in width, and 0.5 meters in height, and the southeast corner, which is about 13 meters in length, 0.8 meters in width, and around 0.3 meters in height. The 846 altar consists of 6 assembled sandstone boulders. However, it is not quite completed. The bottom is flat and 17 centimeters in height, with a 3 to 4 centimeter foundation step, creating an edge that is 1 centimeter thick, with the curves reaching to 9 centimeters in height. Around the altar, there are big lotus petals, interspersed with 2 overlapping smaller lotus petals. The top of the altar has a 0.5 centimeter high ledge that is 5.8 centimeters in width, inside a 3 centimeter deep hollow, making a circular plane with a radius of 96.5 centimeters. The overlapping body's height is 52.5 centimeters, and radius is 94.5 centimeters, almost matching the upper circle of the base. At the starting point, there is a 4 centimeter protruding edge that is 6 centimeters in height, with another symmetrical edge that lies 24 centimeters away. There is one yoni fixed on top. The part between the two edges is engraved with the ancient Champ script with a height of 67 centimeters, with the content, "This sack for the linga of Vamesvara was placed by the famous king Vamesvara, the mightiest of kings. This offering is as eternal as the existence of the earth." Ladies and gentlemen, the Dharma Protector, or Dwavrapala, is made of sandstone, dating from the 11th to the 12th century. The Dharma Protector is the fierce incarnation of Shiva, called Mahakala, or Great Virtualization, which plays the role of preventing temptations to help people move towards the good things. The statue of the Dharma Protector was formerly located in front of the E6 tower. You can see that the god is wearing a short sampot with lines circling to the right and a flat belt holding it on. Another rectangular-shaped belt with an outer flap that reaches the foot is outside. The uncovered body with a snake head in front of a fluffy chest is wrapped in Brahmin rope. The statue wears 2 circle-shaped rings around its neck, with leaves facing down towards the chest. The biceps wear bracelets with a leaf-shaped crocheted flower. The wrist has 3 cuffs and 1 loop at the ankle. The statue only has his body left, holding a short sword in his hand. Ladies and gentlemen, the statue of the sacred bull Nandi is made from sandstone. This is the mount and is sometimes even considered as the incarnation of the god Shiva. Nandi is worshipped as a dedicated servant and mediator between the deity and his followers, as they are normally not allowed to enter the central altar inside the temple. The statue of Nandi is carved in a circular shape, with his 4 legs tucked underneath his body. The hooves are clearly exposed, and the tail passes through the abdomen before going over the hind legs. The bull leans a little toward the right, lying on a pedestal with a diameter of 111.5 centimeters by 54 centimeters by 10 centimeters. His head points upward, his body round and fat. His bib stretches in front of his chest, marked with delicate notches. In Vedic literature, the bull and the cow symbolize abundance and fertility, because the cow, in Indian belief, symbolizes both the earth and the sky. In the Veda Sutras, there are also very strict religions forbidding the slaughter of cows. Since it is considered the most sacred of all animals in Hinduism, every part of the cow's body carries religious significance. For the Cham people in Vietnam, due to the influence of Hinduism, they also idolize bulls, with Nandi being a prime example. Nandi, the bull, plays a very important role, not only in the architecture and sculpture, but also in the spiritual and religious life of the Cham people in all social hierarchies, from aristocrats and monks to ordinary citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, Group F includes 3 towers, the main tower F1, the gate tower F2, and the sub-tower F3, which was completely destroyed due to bombing. Therefore, there are only towers F1 and F2 now. Temple F1 dates from the 8th to the 9th centuries, with 8th century Hua Lei style architecture. This is one of the earliest temples of Misun. A 7-step high staircase leads up to the temple entrance, which opens to the west. The main hall is long and narrow, with triangular niches to place offerings inside. The great altar in the main hall is decorated and carved with chrysanthemums, the linga decorated with carvings resembling buns. The northern wall still has traces of the sacred sandstone Somasutra drain. This demonstrates that the divine water in this temple is drained using 2 distinct methods. The bottom of the tower is decorated with images and animals. This temple has suffered significant war-related damage at present. Ladies and gentlemen, the K Tower Group, as part of the Misun Temple complex, was constructed during the 11th and 12th centuries. As you can see, currently only 2 severely damaged walls remain of the K Tower, which features spear-shaped arches placed on 2 unadorned brick pillars and 2 gates. One gate facing eastwards towards the center, and one facing westwards near the Khe Te stream. The restoration and preservation of temple groups A, H, and K are part of a cultural partnership between the governments of Vietnam and India, which had been in effect from 2016 to 2021. In 2017, Indian and Vietnamese experts discovered the K-Gate Tower and identified its function as a gateway. They also uncovered the boundary wall of a path, which, according to experts, could be the route that leads from the Gate Tower K to the main temple complex. During the excavation, they also found many terracotta pottery items, which might be evidence of ceremonies taking place in this area. During the restoration, experts also relocated the Brahmin statue to its original location in the South Artificial Arch. For generations, locals have believed that the objects in Misun have their own value and spiritual significance. The security guard at Misun Relic once heard a mysterious story from a group of visitors. They said that there was a young girl who visited Misun. When she heard about the value of bricks in the temple complex, she curiously picked up a piece of broken brick and brought it home as a decoration in her classroom. One afternoon, a woman came to the gate of the relic to ask to enter with the offering tray in her hand. That woman was the girl's mother. She said that, after returning from the tour, her daughter showed signs of abnormality. She discovered in her daughter's classroom something strange. It was a piece of broken brick. She asked many places and found out that this is a very sacred object from Misun Sanctuary. Realizing the significance of the object, she returned it to the relic site. The legends and stories passed down by locals are deeply intertwined with the spiritual life of the region's inhabitants. And when these stories are told, they add to the mystique and allure of a place already steeped in mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, as a cultural heritage site of outstanding global value, My Son is in need of protection for the benefit of future generations. On December the 4th, 1999, in the city of Marrakesh in the Republic of Morocco, My Son relic was added to the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List in recognition of two of its outstanding cultural significance. It was cited for meeting two criteria. Criterion 2. The My Son Temple complex is an outstanding example of cultural exchange with influences from external sources, especially Indian art and architecture from the Indian subcontinent, which integrated into the local culture. Criterion 3. My Son Temple complex vividly reflects the role of the ancient kingdom of Champa in the cultural and political history of Southeast Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kazimierz Kwiatkowski, a talented architect who has worked with My Son for many years, said, "The ancient Champa people sent spirituality into the soil and rock, and they have known to rely on nature to make a magnificent, profound, and majestic picture in My Son. This is the priceless museum of human sculpture and art that will take a long time to properly comprehend." It's undeniable that My Son is a piece of architectural history that not only reflects building methods, but also the history of the period. It is a masterpiece of art and architecture, arranged in an appropriate natural landscape according to religion. In the 2 decades since its recognition by UNESCO, the management and maintenance of the My Son World Heritage Site has produced specific outcomes. A solid legal framework has been established to ensure the conservation of this precious heritage. In addition, direct intervention through restoration and anastylosis helps the structures within the sanctuary to gradually stabilize and sustain. Thank you for choosing the automatic narration system at My Son Monument. We sincerely hope that, through this tour, this audio guide system has brought you a rich and interesting and informative experience. We welcome your feedback and suggestions to improve the service experience of the audio guide and become even more of a reliable companion of every visitor when visiting the My Son Sanctuary.